What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we are doing my must start, must sit running backs for week 5 fantasy football. Goal for this video, we are going to get you a win in week 5. So ask me any start sit questions down below. Like and subscribe, and let's go. The first player that we're going to be talking about this week is Jonathan Taylor versus the Tennessee Titans. Now, there has been no official report on Jonathan Taylor. Is he going to play? I know he's practicing this week. There's a lot of assumptions that Jonathan Taylor will be playing in week 5 fantasy football. For those of us that drafted Jonathan Taylor, you've been waiting for week 5. You've been holding out for 4 weeks. So hopefully you just got yourself an RB1, and we're excited to see what Jonathan Taylor can do. So of course he's a must start this week, assuming he plays. If he is not playing, then of course he's a must sit. But this week going up against the Tennessee Titans, we like this matchup for the Indianapolis Colts. We like what we've seen from Anthony Richardson. We like what we've seen from Michael Pittman. The offense honestly looks really great. And imagine adding an actual bell cow, honestly the most explosive player in that offense back into the offense. I love Jonathan Taylor this week. He is in my tier 2s. If he plays, I still have him right around Derrick Henry and DeAndre Swift in my rankings for this week. So Jonathan Taylor is a must start for week 5 if he does play. My next must-start player is going to be DeAndre Swift versus the Los Angeles Rams. DeAndre Swift has absolutely taken this backfield by storm, and last week the splits were a little bit closer. And the thing that we continue to see out of this DeAndre Swift backfield with DeAndre Swift is Kenneth Gainwell is getting more snaps kind of week over week. So as much as I think DeAndre Swift is still a must-start, he's been absolutely killing it with yards per carry. He's been getting in the end zone. Jalen Hurts hasn't been stealing too many touches from my man DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is going to be another must-start against the Los Angeles Rams. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Of course, you got Puka Nacua, you got Kyron Williams, you got Tutu. Does Cooper Kupp come back this week? Like, this entire Rams offense is very electric, so I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. So I like DeAndre Swift as my second must-start for week 5 fantasy football. The next player is going to be Devon Achane. I still struggle to say his name. Going up against the New York Giants, he's just proved himself to be an every week starter. And so I don't think there's any reason for us to be looking and saying, yes, he had an amazing 2 weeks ago. Him and Raheem Mostert split carries, and it looked great. But last week, he got majority of the touches. He outsnapped Raheem Mostert. And so I think we see who the running back, the most electric running back, is going to be on this Dolphins offense going forward. So he definitely is a must start here for week 5. I believe he's going to be a top 10, top 12 play weekly as long as he does start. So if you got him off waivers, congratulations to you. But you got to continue to start him week after week. And my final must start player for this week is going to be David Montgomery. We all see what's happened with David Montgomery the last few weeks with, sadly, Jahmyr Gibbs. A lot of us were putting Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery back-to-back in the first 2 weeks. And I think we've seen what David Montgomery is, the clear bell cow. He's the clear receiving back, and he's also the clear goal line threat. So David Montgomery is another player that is definitely going to be a must start for us. Going up against Carolina Panthers, super easy matchup for the Lions. I think you could be talking about David Montgomery having another 2-touchdown day. And with this Jamal Williams role that he is currently enveloping himself into, that is just amazing for his fantasy football value. So you are definitely going to be must starting him. I think there's 2 more players that we can kind of throw in as some must starts later down the line. The first one's going to be Brian Robinson versus Chicago. Great matchup for Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson has slowly been having himself such a great fantasy football season up to this point. And so I think you definitely have to start Brian Robinson. And I'll give you one more player to start this week, and that's going to be Dameon Pierce versus Atlanta. Dameon Pierce, you drafted him in the 5th, 6th round. You thought he was going to be able to fill in that RB2 spot, or if you went hero RB, you thought he was going to be your RB1. Hopefully, if Dameon Pierce was your RB1, you were able to pick someone off of waivers. But Dameon Pierce is going up against Atlanta. Running backs against Atlanta have been scoring very consistent fantasy points. So we do like Dameon Pierce this week versus Atlanta as my second must-start player. So let's start about some sits for this week. The first one's going to be Zach Moss. With us not knowing what Jonathan Taylor's doing, and we have Jonathan Taylor as a start if he does play. At the same time, Zach Moss, for as amazing as his run has been, will probably be sadly coming to a halt if Jonathan Taylor does play in week 5. Zach Moss going up against the Titans this week. I will not be starting my man Zach Moss. Another must-sit for me this week is going to be Zeke Elliott. I know a lot of people have been debating Zeke Elliott in the flex each and every week, depending on depth. This week, the Patriots are going up against the Saints. And now, while the Patriots are favored in this matchup, Zeke just hasn't been able to show that elite level touchdown upside that he had in Dallas, just based on the fact that this New England Patriots offense hasn't been getting in the end zone as much. And there were also reports a few weeks ago that Zeke was going to be more of the bell cow, overtaking Ramondre Stevenson. I don't know why those beat reporters or why those reports ever surfaced on Twitter, but Zeke Elliott is another must sit this week. Another player that I think is a sit this week is going to be Breece Hall. Now, I know you might have to play Breece Hall depending on your running back depth. On a lot of the rosters that I had Breece Hall, I also had Jonathan Taylor, so I will be starting Jonathan Taylor over Breece Hall if Jonathan Taylor does play. This week, the Jets are playing against the Broncos. The Broncos are favored. I just feel like Breece Hall is a risky start. RB32 for me me this week. The over-under for this game is 13.5. So as much as people hate on the Broncos offense, I think the Jets, as much as Zach Wilson looked great last week, I just cannot bank on Breece Hall having a good week this week. So Breece Hall will be a must sit for me. And my final must sit for this week is going to be Khalil Herbert. Talked about him yesterday in my video, how he is a must trade away target. But I think as much as he's a must trade away target, you can't start him this week going up against the Washington Commanders, that elite level defensive front with Chase Young. Now, the Washington Commanders are favored. Justin Fields did seem to return into himself last week, so there could be a lot of optimism that this offense could get back to humming. But even if the offense does get back to humming, I just feel like that's more predicated on Justin Fields, DJ Moore's fantasy football value, more than Khalil Herbert's. I think Roschon Johnson's just been getting more snaps each and every week. Roschon Johnson just looking like an absolute 6 yards per carry type guy, where Khalil Herbert, maybe he's more explosive, maybe he has better pass catching out of the backfield ability. But I just think if you have to start Khalil Herbert, it's definitely a risky start. And if I have the option between some other guys and Khalil Herbert, I will definitely be sitting Khalil Herbert. So those are my start sits for week 5 fantasy football. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Appreciate you guys tuning in here to the channel. We will be back again with my wide receiver must starts and must sits, but I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace.